There's a moment in trading that feels like you finally escaped the cage, not just mentally, physically. Like the air is different, like your chest feels lighter. It's the moment you make real money. Not a small green day you can brush off as luck, not a tiny profit that still leaves you feeling broke when you look at your bank account, but a number that hits your account and makes you lean back in your chair, stare at the screen a little longer than usual, and quietly think, oh, this is real. For a lot of traders, that number is $20,000. It's big enough to feel like proof, big enough to silence the doubt for a moment, big enough to change your mood instantly, big enough to change how you walk, how you talk, how you carry yourself that day, big enough to make you feel like you finally crossed into a new world, where trading isn't just a hobby you defend to people, not just a dream you're chasing in silence, but a real weapon in your hands. And that's exactly why it becomes dangerous. Most traders believe the hard part is getting to that number. They think the real battle is surviving long enough, losing enough, learning enough, losing enough, bleeding enough, then finally catching the move that pays big. They think once they hit it, something inside them permanently upgrades, that the pressure disappears, that the insecurity fades, that discipline becomes automatic, that consistency becomes natural. They think the money transforms them. But the truth is this: money doesn't turn you into a professional. Money reveals who you already are. That's why the real problem isn't making $20,000. The real problem is what happens after. It's what you do when you finally touch what you've been chasing for months, maybe years. It's what your mind does when it realizes the market can actually pay you like that. It's what your ego does when it leans in and whispers, "You're different now." It's what your emotions do when they see how fast the scoreboard can move. It's what your discipline does when your brain starts negotiating with your rules. Because now you earned the right to push a little harder. If you've ever had your biggest win and then felt yourself slowly unravel, right after, you're not crazy. You're human. Making money isn't the finish line. Keeping it is the skill. One big day does not save you if your identity is still unstable. Now let's talk about why $20,000 hits so deep psychologically. It's not that the number is magical. It's that it flips a switch. It moves trading from imagination to evidence. Before that moment, trading lives mostly in your head. You imagine what it would feel like to win big. You imagine how it would change your life. You imagine the calm version of yourself, the confident version, the consistent version. You imagine who you become once the account reflects your effort. Your dreams live in the future. Then $20,000 turns imagination into proof. It's the first time the market feels like it could actually fund your freedom. The first time withdrawals feel real. The first time scaling feels possible. The first time you consider telling people without sounding delusional. The first time you look at your job and think, maybe I won't be here forever. And right there, that's where the instability begins. Because the mind hates slow progress once it tastes speed. Once it experiences acceleration, patience feels boring. It gets addicted to momentum. It wants that surge again, that rush again, that validation again. So the trader who was careful climbing the mountain becomes reckless once he reaches the peak. The trader who respected risk, because he was afraid of blowing up now, starts bending rules because he feels protected. The trader who was humble in struggle starts acting like the market owes him consistency. The trader who once protected every dollar now treats risk like it's a minor inconvenience. That's why the number matters. It's not about money. It's about identity. Everyone celebrates the win. Almost no one talks about the emotional crash that can follow. There was a time when I hit a number that felt like a breakthrough. It wasn't $20,000 in one day, but it was enough to make me feel like I officially belonged in this game. I felt validated, sharp, seen. I felt like I proved something to myself. And quietly, without announcing it, my brain shifted. I started thinking about how to recreate that moment. I didn't notice it immediately, but I started scanning the market differently. I looked at it like a machine that had already paid me, so it could pay me again if I just pushed the right buttons. The next session, instead of calmly executing my plan, I hunted. I wanted movement. I wanted speed. I wanted to capitalize. The market hadn't changed at all. The candles were the same. The structure was the same. I changed. I pressed trades that didn't fully qualify. I convinced myself setups were close enough. I increased size slightly because I felt like I deserved to. And when the market didn't reward me again, irritation crept in. That irritation turned into forcing. Forcing turned into losses. And those losses didn't just reduce my P&L, they shook my emotional balance. Suddenly, I questioned whether the big win was skill or luck. I questioned myself. I felt the old insecurity trying to return. And that emotional spiral felt worse than the losses themselves. That's the part no one warns you about. After a big win, your mind becomes unstable in two directions at once. You either become too confident or too afraid. Too confident and you overextend. Too afraid and you hesitate. One side creates greed, the other creates fear, both ruin execution. Look at Chris. Chris has been grinding for 2 years. He's struggled. He's doubted himself. He's chased trades. He's felt embarrassed. He's wondered if he's wasting time. Then one week everything aligns. Clean setups, clear execution, strong follow through. He makes $20,000. He feels on top of the world. Finally validated, finally proven. He posts the screenshot. The comments hype him up, his identity expands overnight. He feels like a different person, talks differently, thinks bigger, spends quicker, plans faster. The next week, the market slows down. His setups aren't as clean. He takes a few losses. Something inside him tightens. He gets irritated. He wants that high again. He increases size slightly because I can handle it. He forces trades. He revenge trades. Within weeks, a large portion of that $20,000 disappears. Now the emotional pain hits harder than before. Because now he had it, now he tasted it. Now he feels like he lost a version of himself. Chris learns something brutal. Making money doesn't make you consistent. It exposes whether you already were. If your discipline is real, a big win doesn't change you. You treat it as one data point in a long series of probabilities. You log it, you respect it. You stay the same. If your discipline is emotional, the win destabilizes you. You either inflate or you panic. The market isn't the enemy. The story in your head is, I made $20,000. I'm different. I can relax now. I can take bigger risks. I can't go back. That last belief is the most dangerous. The moment you think you can't go back, you start trading under pressure. And pressure quietly destroys clarity. It kills patience. It makes you manage trades emotionally. It makes you force certainty where none exists. The big win becomes a prison instead of freedom. And if you haven't made $20,000 yet, this applies to you even more. If your entire mindset right now is I just need one big day, you are wiring your brain for instability. You are building outcome addiction. You are practicing emotional attachment to results. You cannot scale a fragile mindset. You cannot scale emotional inconsistency. When you add more capital to a broken process, you don't magnify profits, you magnify damage. Another shift happens quietly after $20,000. Your perception of risk changes. Before that level, risk feels heavy. Every loss stings. You're cautious because you lack proof. After that level, risk can start feeling smaller, almost lighter. If I did it once, I can do it again. That thought can either stabilizes you or slowly corrupt you. It stabilizes you when it builds calm confidence. It corrupts you when it builds carelessness. After $20,000, your brain behaves as if the market is different, but the chart hasn't changed. Structure hasn't changed. Liquidity hasn't changed. Only your perception changed. Only your perception changed. Proof is powerful. It changes how you interpret everything. Before the win, you're surviving. You're cautious. You respect risk because you have been hurt. There's fear, but also humility. After the win, humility fades slightly, not completely, just enough to make you dangerous. You start believing your instincts are sharper, that you see something others don't, that you've unlocked a layer. That feels like confidence. But often it's ego. Ego is emotional attachment to being right. Ego needs continuation. Ego wants confirmation. That's why the trader who once waited patiently now rushes entries. The trader who once respected rules now bends them. The trader who once stopped after reaching a goal now pushes for more. The trader who once managed risk precisely now treats it as flexible. A big win creates dopamine, and dopamine doesn't just create joy. It creates desire to repeat. Your brain says, again. So now you're not chasing money, you're chasing identity. The rush, the image of yourself succeeding, that hunger slowly erodes precision, and precision was the reason you won. The market rewards discipline and then tests whether you can keep it. You start imagining lifestyle changes, bigger withdrawals, faster scaling, freedom. That imagination creates pressure because once you imagine the better life, you feel responsible to maintain it. Inside you, greed and fear begin competing. Greed says, push harder. Fear says, don't lose this. That internal conflict creates instability. One day you overtrade, the next day you freeze. Consistency disappears. It's not your strategy that vanished, it's your emotional equilibrium. Jay goes through the same cycle. He hits $20,000 and feels like he arrived. The next day, trading feels heavier, like he has something to prove. He checks P&L constantly, hesitates on valid setups, then forces weak ones. Losses stack, panic rises. He doesn't want to be the guy who gave it back, so he tries to fight the market emotionally. And that's how he loses it. The most common shift after a big win is expansion mode. You believe your edge is larger than it is. You add more pairs, more sessions, more size, more trades. You feel unlocked. Instead of staying disciplined, you expand emotionally. Professionals do the opposite. They teeth Godin after big wins. They reduce exposure. They protect their mental state. They stay consistent. They understand the win was a reward for process, not proof of superiority. Retail traders loosen up. They freestyle. They confuse confidence with invincibility. Confidence without structure becomes chaos. Chaos leads to overtrading. Overtrading leads to losses. There's one more quiet shift. Money starts feeling less real. Before $20,000, losses feel painful because capital is limited. After $20,000, numbers can start feeling abstract, like points on a screen. You become slightly desensitized. That desensitization makes you casual with risk. And casual risk eventually compounds into damage. If $20,000 changed your emotions were never mastered. If $20,000 changed your discipline was never internalized. Real discipline doesn't fluctuate with results. It's stable when you're up, stable when you're down, stable when you're bored, stable when you're excited. So hitting $20,000 isn't just a reward, it's an exposure test. Are you still grounded? Can you stop when you're ahead? Can you stay patient after success? Can you hold money without letting it redefine you? After $20,000, the market doesn't change. Your eyes do. Candle doesn't know you won. Liquidity doesn't care. The algorithm isn't targeting you. What changed is perception. Perception shifts interpretation. Interpretation shifts decisions. Decisions shift outcomes. The after phase is predictable. It's psychology adjusting to proof. Most traders think they're trading setups. In reality, they're trading their emotional state. And after $20,000, expansion mode quietly begins. You believe your edge is bigger. You believe you can risk more, trade more, scale faster. You feel like the market is wide open. Instead of staying disciplined, you expand emotionally. And that's where the cycle begins again. And that's where the cycle begins again. Because once expansion starts, contraction is usually right behind it. At first, it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels exciting. You feel alive again. You feel like you're playing bigger. Your screen time increases. Your conviction feels stronger. You start saying things like, I see it clearly now. You feel synced with the market. But what's really happening is subtle. You're no longer trading to execute. You're trading to sustain identity. And that shift, that tiny internal shift, changes everything. Before the $20,000, you were trying to become profitable. After the $20,000, you're trying to prove you deserve it. That difference creates tension. You start measuring yourself differently. Every red day feels heavier. Every missed trade feels like a failure. Every hesitation feels like weakness. You become hyper-aware of performance. You check P&L more often. You calculate weekly totals mid-session. You think ahead instead of staying present. And presence is where precision lives. When presence disappears, so does edge. You begin to slightly rush entries because you don't want to miss the move. You cut winners early because you don't want to watch them retrace. You hold losers slightly longer because it'll come back. Every decision becomes tinted by emotion, not logic. And here's the dangerous part. You still think you're trading well because ego is quiet. It doesn't scream. It just slightly adjusts your perception. It convinces you that this is growth, that this is scaling, that this is evolution. But real evolution in trading is boring. It's repetition, it's structure, it's restraint. Emotional expansion feels powerful. Strategic consistency feels powerful. Strategic consistency feels dull. That's why so many traders sabotage themselves after their first breakthrough. The breakthrough changes how they feel, and they mistake that feeling for skill. There's also something deeper that happens. When you make $20,000, you don't just gain money, you gain visibility. Even if no one knows you know, you see yourself differently. And that self-image can become heavy. Now you're the trader who made 20K. Now you have something to protect. Now you have a reputation, even if it's only in your own mind. And protecting identity is exhausting. You start trading defensively or aggressively, but rarely neutrally. Neutrally is where professionals live. Professionals don't wake up trying to defend a past win. They wake up trying to execute a process. After a big win, your mind tries to shortcut the process. It says, "You've seen what's possible, just go get it again." But the market doesn't reward desire, it rewards discipline. The uncomfortable truth is this: the $20,000 didn't come from intensity, it came from alignment, alignment with structure, alignment with patience, alignment with probability. But when you chase the feeling of the win, you disconnect from the behavior that created it. You start thinking in terms of weeks instead of years. You start thinking in terms of runs instead of routines. You start thinking in terms of runs instead of identity. And identity is everything, because the market will always fluctuate. Your P&L will always move. Your win rate will always vary. If your emotional stability is tied to performance, you will never feel secure. That's why the traders who last in this game are almost emotionally boring. They don't celebrate wildly. They don't panic dramatically. They don't attach meaning to single weeks. They understand that one big win means nothing without repetition. And repetition requires humility. Humility after success is rare. Most people know how to be humble in struggle. Very few know how to be humble in success. After $20,000, the question becomes simple. Can you act like nothing happened? Can you wake up the next day and trade the exact same size? Take the exact same setups? Follow the exact same rules? Stop at the exact same limits? Or do you feel the urge to press? That urge, that subtle urge, is where accounts slowly bleed. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes you don't blow up. Sometimes you just slowly give it back over months. A little oversizing here, a little oversizing here, a little forcing there. A few emotional decisions that feel justified in the moment. And one day you look at your equity curve and realize you're back where you started. That realization hurts more than any loss, because now you know what it felt like to be up. This is why holding money is harder than making it. Making money requires skill. Holding money requires identity control. And identity control means detaching from outcomes, even big ones. You have to train yourself to see $20,000 the same way you see $200, as data, as probability playing out, as a byproduct, not a trophy. The moment you turn it into a trophy, you create pressure, and pressure forces performance. Performance anxiety kills clarity. Clarity is what made you profitable. There's another uncomfortable truth. Sometimes your first $20,000 isn't proof of mastery. Sometimes it's variance. And if you don't have deep self-awareness, you won't know the difference. That's why journaling matters more after a big win than after a big loss. That's why journaling matters more after a big loss. After a loss, you're naturally reflective. After a win, you feel validated. And validation reduces reflection. But that's when reflection is most important. Ask yourself, did I follow my rules perfectly? Did I size correctly? Was I patient? Was this repeatable? Or did I get aggressive and lucky? The professionals question themselves after wins. Amateurs question themselves only after losses. Because professionals understand something critical. The market doesn't care about your confidence. It doesn't reward belief. It rewards consistency. And consistency is built in silence. If you want to truly evolve after $20,000, you don't expand. You compress, you simplify. You reduce variables, you protect mental clarity. You tighten risk, you slow down. It feels counterintuitive. You think a breakthrough means acceleration. But in trading, a breakthrough should trigger stabilization. You don't run faster after momentum. You anchor deeper, because success is fragile when your mindset is still forming. The goal isn't to make $20,000 again next month. The goal is to make smaller, consistent gains for the next 5 years. That requires emotional maturity. It requires being okay with boring weeks after exciting ones. It requires letting go of the high. It requires accepting that the market owes you nothing, not even a repeat. When you detach from the need to repeat the peak, you regain clarity, and clarity restores execution. Execution restores consistency. Consistency compounds, and compounding is quiet. There's no screenshot for compounding discipline. There's no viral post for steady risk management. But that's where real wealth is built. So if you ever hit $20,000 or any number that feels life-changing, pause. Don't expand. Don't announce a new version of yourself. Don't increase your lifestyle immediately. Don't increase your risk immediately. Stabilize. Protect your psychology. Because the market will test you harder after you win than after you lose. After you lose, you're cautious. After you win, you're exposed. And exposure without emotional control is dangerous. The real flex in trading isn't a $20,000 week. It's looking exactly the same before and after it. Same discipline, same routine, same humility. Because that's how you break the cycle. Not by chasing bigger numbers, but by becoming someone numbers can't destabilize.